Then you're in the right place. This is the Rutherford Magazine Show with host Mike Sparks. He and guests are here to talk local politics, history, faith, and freedom.
Got a big show tonight. If my guests show up, I hope they do. Got guest Randy Allen, Habitat for Humanity. Randy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
And our faithful intern Jeremy Smithson.
How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. And then our faithful producer Jackson. Jackson, how you doing? You good?
Yeah.
You always seem so stressed out, man.
Oh no, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm stressed. I'm just,
Yeah. Got a lot going on. Then I've got Francis Rosales with the school board and Joshua Rosales, her husband, on the way. Talk about some things they're working on. Before we get started, the show tonight, I want to give a shout out to former Mayor Ronnie Irwin. Sadly, his son was killed in a car wreck night before last, and my buddy Tony Campbell called me. They couldn't locate. He didn't know where his son's body was at. I've never had a call like that, so I was texting people 7 in the morning trying to find out where they took his son's body to. So that was an interesting yesterday morning, but I want to thank Deputy Chris Beach for texting me back and Mayor Joe Carr for texting me back. His son, it was Ronnie Allen Irwin, passed away in a car wreck over there off of 231, I believe, in Christiana, you know. But anyways, thoughts and prayers go out to Ronnie and his family with his loss. You know, I've got 2 sons at that age, and I couldn't imagine losing a son like that, you know. Just never know when it's your time. Yep, you just never know. Yeah, it was Highway 231 South in Christiana, and got it pulled up. WGNS covered it. Kudos WGNS, Scott Walker for covering it, and 10 a.m. Friday night, 30-year-old Ronnie Irwin, and really sad, you know. Just never know when it's your time to go, but a little disappointed with some agencies. I won't say who. But wasn't the sheriff's department. I just couldn't get a hold of nobody. You call numbers and it's no answer. You know, it's like, man, I see that more today than ever. You know, call Habitat, they don't answer. No, I'm teasing you, man. I'm just kidding you. Y'all do answer the phone, brother. Y'all do answer the phone. That's for sure. So Randy, how's things going?
It's going well.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks for going.
Thanks for inviting me to y'all's Habitat conference of the day.
We were glad to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your district, right?
Yeah,
my
district.
The Smyrna TCAT.
TCAT, yeah.
Yeah, that was in your district.
I got to talk about our good buddy, Barry Tidwell told me to keep my speech 2 minutes. I can't keep nothing to 2 minutes. You know what I mean? You know, I hope that joker's listening right now. You know, I'm gonna tell him to keep his courtroom to 2 minutes. You know. Anyways, how you doing, Joshua? You doing okay?
Doing good.
Why are you late, man?
Mexican time.
Man, I'd get in trouble for saying that. What'd you call it, Mexican time? What does that mean?
No, over here.
I'm always 30 minutes late to everything.
Really? And that's called Mexican time?
Oh, Mexican time.
Yeah. Wow, I would get in trouble for saying that.
Yeah.
You know what? No, we were over at TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology. Really proud of that center, and if Judge Tidwell's listening, I love Judge Tidwell. He's all our judges are great folks, and they really are. But you know, my friend Freddie Hahn was killed in Iraq, and you know, we were able to get the road named after him. Kudos to Howard Wall and John Floyd for taking the time out for doing that. And I talk about God wink moments. I don't think I got to share that to the day at Habitat though, because it's hard to keep something to 2 minutes when something's so important. But I trained for Eddie at Nissan, and here I go to the state capitol, and he gets blown out of a Humvee and gets killed. But what was cool though, the mayor put me on the planning committee years ago, Bob Spivey, and a guy said he'd named the road after him over there by Habitat or by Home Depot at Laverne, because Freddie, he helped start the Laverne ROTC over there, and that road went out to Home Depot, and I called the developer back about 6 weeks later, 2 months later. He acted like he was going to name it, and I called him back, and the guy changed his mind. Guy just changed his mind, and here, it meant a lot to me because this guy was killed in Iraq, but man, something told me to call a guy named Russ Goodrow at the town of Smyrna. I remember I was in front of Kroger on San Bernardino Parkway, and I called Russ, and because we were on the planning committee together. He did the street naming and the numbers and all. He worked for the town of Smyrna. And I said, Russ, do you have any advice? He said, Mike, it just so happened that the men that owned the property in front of Nissan, the 80 acres, were in here yesterday, and they didn't know what to name them 2 roads. Talk about a God thing, man. And so I got a hold of Howard Wall. Well, I got a hold of the realtor. That was before I was, at the state level. And it took them about a month, and they agreed. So the largest single investment to the town of Smyrna is the $40 million TCAT on Sergeant Asbury Hanway. Is that not cool?
It's very cool.
What's the probability of that? What's the probability? I mean, a statistician couldn't even come up with that probability. I mean, God's good. We don't know why these things happen, but it's like Ronnie's son getting killed in a car wreck. Why does this happen? But I know for me, the Lord had to have his hand in that, because his son hangs out with me. Spencer's been on the radio with me a few times, and really sad though when you start getting my age, Randy, you start seeing your friends pass and your parents pass and family members pass away. Now, do y'all know each other? Josh, you know Randy?
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know if y'all did or not. How y'all know each other?
Campaigning.
Oh, was it
together,
campaign?
yeah,
Oh,
on the
okay.
trail, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you see, my assistant's been campaigning for Alice Raleigh. She's like number 2 in the polls right now with Nashville mayor. I don't think
Who's
she's going to
number
win.
1?
I don't think she's going to win. I love Alice. She was on the radio with us, I think 6 weeks ago. And I mean, for a conservative to win Nashville mayor race, that's a long shot. I mean, that is a long shot. But I text her the other day. I said, hey, man, WKRN, Bob Mueller and them giving you some kudos of the day for her to get this far. But Alice is a machine, man. If y'all met Alice,
No.
girl is sharp. I mean, if anybody's in the metro area or knows anybody, I'm telling you, this girl, she really is sharp. And I shared this on the radio when she was on with me. When I first met her,
What's her name? Alice?
Alice Raleigh, Rolli. And see, women have a sense of intuition more than we do. You know what I mean? Because guys get all cocky and arrogant and egos. You got a big ego, don't you, Randy?
Yeah,
don't you?
you know I do.
Josh, you got a big
Should
ego
have seen his
too.
signs.
But anyways, Trey Hargett, Secretary of State, introduced me to Alice I guess it's been about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And he goes, this is Lamar Alexander's field director for Middle Tennessee. And I just said, well, I think Lamar Alexander is the most disconnected elected official in the state of Tennessee. I said, I'm not being sarcastic. I've just never seen the senator in our community, and I'm going to tell you what, she didn't get defensive. She didn't get mad. She didn't come back saying, well, he was campaigning when you were in kindergarten, which he probably was campaigning when I was in kindergarten. But I said, she did not get defensive. But she called me about 3 or 4 days later, and she said, I thought about what you said. Can you have some coffee with me? And I tell you what she done. We were over at Starbucks in Smyrna. And my mentor owned Starbucks. Bob Spivey owned Starbucks at the time. And well, he owned that whole area. Sold Target, sold the land for Target. The movie theater, he sold all that property, Logan's, all that he had. And she put an event together at Smyrna Airport and had Lamar there and had Governor Huckabee come in. And had me come in to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And there was a lot of protesters outside. And I told Lamar when she introduced me, that's the first time I ever met Lamar Alexander. And I believe in being respectful to my elders. But I told him, I said, sir, the only reason I'm here is not for you. It's because she invited me. I mean, that's how good she is. I said, my people are out there with them protest signs. Those are my people. Those are my friends outside. He looked at me like, okay. And I guess he knew. I said, I'd like to see in our community sometime. And, man, I tell you what, I started talking about working at Nissan years ago. And, man, he's got some people skills. And, man, he, like, started talking about history, which I'm a big fan of history, talking about knocking on the door of the McClary family. And Richard McClary's in our men's Bible study that I think you've been to, you know, Randy. And he's talking about sitting at the dinner table, talking to the McClary family about buying all that property. But they had to keep it, you know, keep it quiet. And they started playing the music for him to go on stage. And he wouldn't go on stage. They had about 200-something people there. And he told Alice, man, they can wait on me. I'm talking to Representative Sparks. It was kind of nice. And I was like, oh, I kind of picked up a little respect for him. And I said, sir, just go ahead and go on stage. And I said, don't forget about us. He said, I'm going to come back and see you. Like that. But the point I want to make with Alice is that, see, a man, well, I shouldn't be picking on men, but most men would have got defensive. They'd have said, you don't know what you're talking about, and what do you know? You don't have a degree in political science. But she thought about it. She used some wisdom and discernment. That's how smart this girl is. She went to Stanford, and my assistant Marvin been knocking on doors. He told me, he says, you know, he's in that like Brentwood kind of side of Davidson County. You know, he knocked on doors in Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro. He said everybody was nice in our community. Remember, this is an African-American knocking on Republican doors. Well, people that lean conservative and independents. Everybody treated him good. No racism, no problems. But he said, man, the people up here are a little nicer. He said, they invite me into their home, offer me water, sweet tea. And, but anyway, Alice is, I hope she wins. I hope she wins. I mean, but anyways, but I appreciate being invited to y'all's conference. That was a good conference.
Yeah.
So where do y'all decide to do that yearly conference like that?
It is, it's always hosted here in Murfreesboro.
Okay.
Normally in Rutherford County for sure. And it is, normally under normal circumstances, it's held at New Vision Baptist Church here off of Thompson Lane.
Yeah.
And this year, we just happened to fall during a renovation remodeling period for New Vision.
Oh, okay.
And so we're very fortunate to have a board member on our board that was able to help us with that location and that facility. And so we moved it up there.
That was good.
Yeah, and you mentioned Judge Tidwell, Barry Tidwell. He's also on the state habitat board.
Oh, is he?
So that was why he was there. And
well, I appreciate y'all
working
reaching
registration.
out. Yeah, telling me to keep it at 2 minutes. I hope he's listening. You admitted his court.
No,
I go to the drug court and the mental health court and the veterans court, and all of them, they really do a good job. I mean, all of them do. And I was in there with Barry's court, well, Judge Tidwell, I should say, his court, and this woman, apparently she, had some drug and mental health issues, and so I guess she violated, and she's explained her position. She broke her leg and this and that, got to hang around her old people and previous friends, and Judge Tidwell, he got me so tickled. He goes, well, got some good news, got some bad news for you. He said something like, good news is you ain't gonna be around your friends anymore, bad news is you're going back to jail, but your leg's gonna heal up. And I just got a big kick out of that. Jackson's motioned for me to take a quick break. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance Policy Perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers Policy Perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available at select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliates. Hey Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face mask, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
My wife and I enjoy going by Yard Sale Inc. We usually go to both locations, the one in Smyrna as well as the one in Murfreesboro. A lot of times on Saturday mornings we stop by, and their inventory changes weekly, so you never know what you're going to see, and it's mostly open box. The name fits it. It's exactly that. It's a yard sale. If you don't totally agree with the price, the staff is always friendly and nice and willing to work with you.
That's the Yard Sale store in Smyrna at 111 Enon Springs Road West, in Murfreesboro at 204 South Front Street, and online at bestdealintown.com.
Hi, this is Allie Dowenhauer with Isaiah 117 House. Isaiah 117 House provides physical and emotional support for children awaiting foster care placement here in Rutherford County. We are changing the way foster care begins, and those kiddos are brought to our house to hang out and wait for a foster family, and they're given everything they need. We support foster children, DCS, and foster families here in Rutherford County. Visit us at www.isaiah117house.com or visit our Facebook page, Isaiah 117 House, Rutherford County.
AFFI is Middle Tennessee's premier choice for pest, wildlife, and moisture control. They specialize in those difficult and unique cases. You can reach them by phone at 615-300-2395. That's 615-300-2395. Or stop in at 200 Glenrose Lane in Smyrna.
Slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping into the future. I wanna fly like an eagle.
All right, we're back. Rutherford Magazine Show. Your host, Mike Sparks. I asked Jackson to play that song. I've got that Steve Miller song, and I didn't realize, I just looked it up, I didn't realize that song was written as a political statement back in the 70s about yearning for freedom. I did not know that.
I didn't
Yeah,
either.
I just liked the song, thought I'd play it. One reason when I was asked to do this show,
See, that's a God thing.
I call it God thing. I call it, synchronicity, God wink moments. But one of the elements I want on this show was faith, freedom, free market. Because our freedoms are slowly being encroached upon. Do y'all see that?
Oh, yeah.
I see it, man. The First Amendment. I mean, people get worried about the Second Amendment. I am too. But man, if you ain't got the First Amendment, Second Amendment's over with. See, most people don't think about it like that. But if they slowly erode your ability to speak, whether it's on this radio or whether it's an op-ed or whether it's out here in the city hall, if they want to stop you, and I see that. I've seen it in Nashville. Man, they'll take something you said and twist it around on you. Man, they try to paint me as a racist before, but really, man, it reminds me of David in the Bible. David, when he fought Goliath, they're like, you can't fight him. What are you going to do? He says, God delivered me from the paws of a lion and the paws of a bear. So his battles that he overcame prepared him for the big battles, But it's like my assistant. He's African-American, knocked on 4,000 doors and faced it. I'm not saying there's not racism. I know there is. But for him, our community, that's what I'm proud of this community, Smyrna, Laverne, North Murfreesboro, welcomed him in open arms. I bet that's the first young man that's probably knocked on doors in this entire county that in my community that was an adult knocking on doors like that, and everybody just loved him. And Marvin's just a great guy. But
Here, if I could interject, to
Yeah.
your point, I think there's an argument to be made that if we don't have the Second Amendment, we can't keep the First Amendment.
Well, or back and forth, you know.
Right. I mean, I think
Yeah.
think the founders were thinking.
Well, they were brilliant
mentally about that.
They really were, and I think it's for such a time as this. But it really is. I mean, I was on the radio with Dr. Krause today. Y'all know Bill Krause? Bill Krause, and big housing advocate, by the way. You know, great guy.
Yeah.
He is my former professor at political science class. Great guy, and his daughter is Jennifer Krause. You know, and she brings a lot of value to the table. But I was telling them, like Phil Williams, nothing against Phil Williams personally, but Phil Williams is not really going to cover affordable housing.
That's right.
He's not going to cover the epidemic of stolen guns out here on the street, but he's going to cover something divisive to pit people against one another. And it's worse today. I've never seen it as bad today than in my 56 years. I've never seen the amount of divisiveness as it is today.
Let me ask you, Mike, while you're on this topic, is there are we going to have a special session to discuss?
Yeah, the governor's called for it. They haven't. He hadn't put out the call but they did. They called me personally last week because my gun safe bill. I met with him 2 weeks ago in my psych bed bill, and I took my legislation. I was pushing it over to the governor. Like he was like, "Great bills, Mike. Work hard and all that. To pass them." And I was like, no, I want you to pass them. I want you, because if it's the governor's idea, it's going to pass. If it's my idea, yeah, it's a little different, But they did call me on my gun safe bill, and you just heard the Mark Brasfield's commercial, which we've got to update it because the Senate didn't pass on their side. And what my bill does is cuts tax off gun safes. May not sound like much, but we're seeing an epidemic. Let me tell you how bad this is. If people don't think this stuff is bad, you hang out with me for a few days. I had a call this week. Kevin Berta, I don't think he's going to mind me sharing his name on the radio, but he called me the other night. And I haven't talked to Kevin in maybe a year. He owns Express Pull and Save over the Express Metals on Dick Buchanan Road in Laverne, off Mercer Road. He said, Mike, one of my drivers was shot at coming down I-24 from Antioch. He said the bullet went through the windshield, missed the driver, and I guess he's got one of them Garmins on the dash, and the bullet lodged in the Garmin. And the police took the bullet like as evidence. And then there was another shooting, I think the day before that on I-24. And when that cop was shot, where they caught the guy, they got the call about a series of car break-ins by the airport in Nashville. It was one of those park and ride places. And Joshua, you may have been on the air with me. Jeremy may have been here. Jackson was here, where I said, I bet that cop that was shot with a stolen gun. And he was shot with a stolen gun. I bet that bullet, I bet that was from a stolen gun. Now, is it going to save the world? No, but it's a tool in the toolbox. Now, they didn't mention anything to me about the psych bed bill. That bill's, I've got some high-power lobbyists fight me on that one. And I understand where they're coming from because we're having a hard time getting caregivers. We're having a hard time getting nurses. And what my bill does on the psych bed bill is, and I call this a guy wink moment. Trey Hargett and I, again, the Secretary of State was with me, and we went to Stonecrest Hospital and trying to find out what their needs were. We went to Ingram Book Company, toward the street side classic cars, and towards Smyrna Ready Mix and a few other things in the community. We'll hit like Laverne Library, Smyrna Library. And Lou Caputo had mentioned to me in there, and Trey, he said, we've added 16 ER beds at Stonecrest. He says, they're all full, pretty much mental health. And they may not like me talking about this on the radio, but hey, it's the truth. And he said on the top floor, they had a nurse. Well, they had a patient that was crazy, jacked up, and I'm not going to say what happened on the air, but it was pretty bad. I'm surprised it never made it in the media. And so he said, Mike, we got to have some relief. So I was telling the governor this story. I said, Governor, Trey Hargett witnessed this. So this ain't just me talking. The Secretary of State witnessed it. And he said, we've got to find relief for some of these people that are dealing with, whether it's addiction, mental health issues. And what was weird is it was a couple weeks later, I get asked to carry this piece of legislation which is updating the portal, which is online. It's called the Hertz system. And another one, I think it's called Transfer All. And what it does, our bill just requires the psych hospitals like Trust Point, Rolling Hills, and others to update the online system where it says, hey, we've got a bed available. We've got a juvenile bed available. Well, the other side is saying, the side that has to carry the bill, the mental health advocates are saying that they slow walk it. Well, some people are saying they're slow walking it because they're picking and choosing who's got insurance and who don't. Well, they say they take everybody. So there's some argument there. But Tennessee Hospital Association, I like them. I mean, they're probably listening right now. The folks have been great to deal with. But one thing about legislation is that there's always another side. Just like any argument, there's always other. It's not that they're bad people, but we toured Trust Point, and my mother was over there 2 years ago, and they were really good to her. They remember my mother being there. She was, from Scotland, so she had that accent. She had to do that ECT scan, the little electric shock therapy, and it really had helped her. And but they're having a hard time getting nurses. I mean, I had a lady in my Sunday school class stop me after Sunday school, and she said her son-in-law's got Parkinson's, and the nurses just don't check on him like they should. And he fell out of his chair. And my daughter-in-law is a nurse. She doesn't want to go into mental health. I mean, who wants to get spit on and poked on and beat up? So it is a serious problem in this country, and it's whether it's teachers, trying to get law enforcement officers, trying to get correctional officers. John DeBerry, when he speaks, Pettis Reed had him in over here a few months ago, and so did Alan Jackson at World Outreach. And John, he's got a speech that kind of covers some of this stuff, but he's talking about how the military, how understaffed they are. John's speaking up, speaking out. But you know what happened to John? A lot of people, this is what's so nefarious, man. Phil Williams not going to cover what happened to John DeBerry. And if folks don't know what John DeBerry, the Democrats took him off the ballot. This is how, what better word is it than nefarious? Jacked up. What else is there other than use profanity? This is just crazy. This guy marched with Dr. King as a boy. He heard the mountaintop speech as a boy, and they took him off the ballot. People need to be alarmed with what's going on. But see, here's the theory. I'm not going to say who I heard this from. They may not want to share it on the radio. But these Tennessee 3, I heard they're the ones that took John off the ballot. Remember, this is a black Democrat, pro-life, conservative Christian, and a minister, Church of Christ minister, and they took him off the ballot. Yeah, there's a movie there, but no one's going to tell that story, But John's a great guy. But I'm telling you, man, this is really worrisome where this country is going. I mean, look, affordable housing.
That's right. And I would say to that, in response to some of the stuff you just said, I think that people need to be aware of what's going on nationally and in our federal government, but they need to be focused on what's going on locally in our local government, because it's their neighbors that are suffering, and it is themselves that is suffering. And I've always heard that people get more excited about a national election, a federal election, a presidential election, but that has very little impact on your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And you have very little ability to make any impact on it. But locally, in your local elections, that's where you're able to have the most impact on what happens to you and your neighbors day to day.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about affordable housing, in Rutherford County specifically, across the nation, it's a challenge across the nation. But what we should be really concerned about is what's going on here in Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, Eagleville, and Rutherford County in general. You wanted me to talk a little bit about Habitat. I want to start by just reading our mission statement, which is seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. that's a very broad mission statement. I know if I was concerned, I've got a friend that actually is, I think you may know her, but I won't call her name out since I didn't have permission to do that. But she's doing a poll on Facebook to determine what are the 3 biggest issues in Rutherford County, and consistently across the board, affordable housing is the one that people keep commenting on.
Yeah.
And affordable housing means a lot to different things to different people, because what I can afford may be different than what you can afford, or what Josh can afford may be different than what I can afford. And so you've got to look at it from the perspective of people who are your children coming up, the people that are behind us. Will they be able to afford, or to have the ability to afford the things that you and I had when we were coming up?
They won't.
Now, you know as well as I do that none of us were created by ourselves. I mean, there are people who helped us get where we are, people that helped us understand. And at Habitat, we're serving a population of people that are very much what I've heard you talked about several times. They are single parents.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times there's not a father in the household. There's not in some cases there's not a grandfather. There is not a male presence. So maybe there's a lot of people that think, oh, you don't need a male in the household. You know, maybe you need
But don't you think that's part of the narrative that the media wants?
That is part of what
folks to believe.
Right. And so I couldn't have gotten to where I am, as far as home ownership, without an example from my parents and an example from my grandparents. A steady hand, somebody to say, hey, you might want to look over here, or you might want to look over there, or you might want to consider this. And I don't think that a lot of people that in the demographic that we serve have that, and so a lot of times Habitat is filling that role.
Yeah. What I like about y'all, that you got to have skin in the game too.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Bob Spivey, and Bob at one time Bob was the most, I hate to say powerful, but he was probably the most powerful man in this entire county. Very intimidating. He can be an intimidating guy. He was a lot like Donald Trump. He really was. But I'm not saying Donald Trump doesn't have any emotion, but Bob was kind of like it. Bob had a little emotion, just a little bit, but he was all business now. And I remember he'd always use that phrase, you got to have skin in the game, But, you look at these issues of the fatherless. I've never met a lobbyist. No one's ever come to the office and said, man, we got to do something about these broken homes. Zero. Nobody's ever come in.
That's the root cause.
Yeah, no one's ever said, man, our prison budget's doubled. It's went from $600 million to $1.2 billion. I've never had anybody ever say that. And that's in 13 years it's happened. And it's unsustainable. I mean, this country, we're on a path. It's totally unsustainable.
Randy, so when you say got to have some skin in the game with Habitat for Humanity, what's the process there?
So, well, I mean, for the person, the applicant, when Mike says skin in the game, I immediately think about, we're not giving a house away. We're actually helping people obtain an affordable mortgage. So they do have to save up and come up with a down payment.
And they sit down with like a financial planner,
they have to go through 50 weeks of financial literacy classes, including budgeting and savings and things like that. They're also going to put about 250 to 500 hours of sweat equity, partner hours into their home and other Habitat homeowner homes in building that. So by the time they are successful in this program, they're much better prepared. And the other thing,
discipline is there.
The discipline. And the other thing that I've always applauded Habitat for before I even came there is that we never let them go. So if there is a issue in the household, if somebody loses a job, or there's an injury or death, illness, things like that, we're always there as a resource to support them getting back on their feet, however that looks, whether it's financial or employment or we're working with them constantly.
Well, talk about that big development that y'all are working on.
Legacy Point
Yeah.
is located off of Twin Oak Drive. It's the first Rutherford County Habitat subdivision. It is
The first in Tennessee.
No, it's the first in Rutherford County. We do have Habitat has each Habitat is separate, so it's a separate affiliate.
Okay.
And so when we do things here, it's for Rutherford County. When we raise money here, it stays here. When we
y'all
help
got some cool history. I didn't until I was at y'all's conference.
Yeah.
It was kind of remember Schultz pointed down the little picture.
Yeah.
Tell him who was in that picture.
Mike Sparks.
And who else?
Yeah.
And who else?
Who else was in there? That's the only one I really.
You don't remember the country music star?
Oh yeah, Garth Brooks.
I can't believe you
Yeah,
forgot.
yeah. Well, all I could see was you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, Garth Brooks was standing. I was kind of caught standing with Garth Brooks. I happened to see him at when y'all done that build out there in Davidson County.
Yeah.
But Jim Tracy and I, we single-handedly built Justin Jordan's house. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
You know, you tell Justin
you were
you
out
said
there.
that.
That's right. I tell him all the time. But
It's
you take
all,
credit
but it's
for
all
it.
fake, man. We're just out there with a hammer. We hit a couple of nails and we go home. And anyways,
we've
Justin,
had-
how's Justin doing?
He's doing good. He's working in the Restore. And if I was to say to people, what can you do about affordable housing in this community? The first thing I would say is get over to the Habitat Restore and purchase your building materials, your furniture, your all those things. 'cause
That's
that
a
money
secret.
goes
Let's
back-
keep that a secret. I've been remodeling
that
two
money-
houses from Habitat Store.
That money goes back into our mission to build more affordable housing.
How's Habitat for Humanity in Rutherford County impacting the Hispanic community?
So, we have, I was trying to think, we have a lady that I think we put in a house last year up in Smyrna. I think Miguel Vega is on our board of directors. So Miguel makes sure that we are out front and center.
That's good.
Everywhere we can be for the Hispanic community. And, a lot of people say, well, you're just serving a certain race or demographic, or it's all single mothers, or, but we follow fair housing guidelines. So everything that is required on a regular mortgage is required on a Habitat mortgage. We have to follow those guidelines. So, yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's really
Well, it's not
good.
a handout.
No,
Yeah.
it's a hand up.
Well, I think when you hear the word, sometimes you hear the word privilege, and I've often thought about that. I thought, I had the privilege of having a father. I had the privilege of having a stepfather. I had the privilege of having a mother in the home. But my dad, one thing about him, he didn't give you nothing. You had to work for it. And the reason I was able to buy my first house at 22 is he loaned me the money to buy my Camaro, 68 Camaro, and I paid him back. But then I had that savings, sold that car for $3,500 and used that $3,500 for the down payment on our house, which is now our business on Nissan Drive, the Vanity Zone. But that was $60,000. But how many people are going to be able to buy a home today at 22 years old?
You know what? This is interesting because I often hear that, and you hear it on the media. They say, blacks and browns, they're victims. They're being disparaged or whatever it's called, and they're not. I mean, they're not victims. They just probably didn't get the memo, And it's just like it's a great opportunity. I know for the Hispanic community. We're not victims, one or both parents are working, sometimes the kids are raising themselves at home. And so, I mean, you talk about being in the banking industry for 24 years. I mean, my Hispanic clients that were customers of mine had, they were, cleaning at Gaylord Opryland as, housekeeping, got 40 grand in the account. Why? Because it's that discipline. They don't use credit, and it's
Cash.
It's just incredible when it comes to the Hispanic community that, and I'm getting off on the tangent, but it's something how they always lump in black and brown, black and brown, black and brown. And it's like brown is nothing like black, and black is nothing like brown. But when it comes to that, I'm really excited for the opportunity for Habitat for Humanity to be able to offer those resources where someone can go and sit down and go through 50 weeks. And at the end of it, they build those disciplines and then be able to get into a mortgage. And, that's, Hispanics, when it comes to politics or it just comes to the United States, I mean, they don't care about politics. They're Americans. They come here, they want the American dream. They're going to work hard for the American dream. And, they will work their knuckles to the bone until they bleed for the American dream. And so they don't see themselves as, separate. They see themselves as Americans. And I think that's where, when it comes to conservatism, I think we get it right there, because it's like when we talk about the farmer, when they talk about the the construction worker or this, it's like we're talking about everybody in that. And so Hispanics really, and with Miguel Vega is incredible, but it's just great that Habitat for Humanity is out there doing that and really impacting. You see Laverne and Smyrna just blowing up. A lot of Hispanics are moving in, have families, and they want that home. They want that home. Like they will work. They want it. And so, great job, Randy.
Thank you.
Well, what I like about them, I mean, I went by y'all's office. Well, I'm at the store all the time. I mean, they know me by name. But I'm going to tell you, man, the good Lord takes care of me. I've been restoring my mother's house and then my house, getting it ready for sale. If anybody's looking for a 2,400 square foot home, call me in Smyrna. I think it's the best neighborhood in Smyrna. Walk to school, walk to the library, Magnet School, Thurman France Magnet School.
I got a realtor that says he's got buyers looking for houses.
I'll send them over. Well, I'm gonna let my wife's cousin Keith. The sign's in the front yard, but we've been working on. I was out there painting the back porch, and I mean, sweat was in my. It was so hot today, man. Sweat was literally in my eyes. I couldn't even hardly continue to paint out there. But it's a. I like the home, but my mother passed. She was from Scotland, and I didn't realize. I never knew nothing about my mother's finances, and my mother wouldn't spend money on nothing.
Did she know Braveheart?
Yeah, she knew all that. Okay, she was born at the foot of Edinburgh Castle, but really frugal. But my mother, she had saved a sizable amount. It kind of surprised me, but she was raising 5 of us because her and my dad split up when I was about 2. But that was that generation. My dad as well. He'd save everything, and not throw anything away. But this morning in our Sunday school class, the question was, they were asking, what makes the wisest person seem to be so wise? And I'm the average age of my Sunday school class is like 80 years old, but they've seen the changes in this country where, you could afford to buy a home at 30 years old or 25 years old. Or in our case, my wife was 18, I was 22. We were very fortunate. But you asked about the future, and I hate to sound so negative. I'm just being a realist. If we don't get this country back to some basics, man, I mean, you've got corporations buying up property and turn them into rentals. I mean, that's an issue. How do we address that? I've got that TASER study coming up in September, Tennessee Advisory Council on Government Relations. Really proud of that, getting that on the agenda. Talk to the speaker about the scope of this study, how far I can open this up. And so I want to try to get, I know y'all are going to speak. I believe the Tennessee Home Builders are going to speak. I'm going to open it up to, I think, the Urban League, reach out to them. Any other housing advocates that's out there. Because what people don't realize, and I've done this, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, $85,000 of a new home today is nothing but taxes and regulation and fees. People don't realize how much government is there. And if folks don't think government, Reagan talked about government as a problem. I'll give you case in point. I think I shared this with you maybe a couple of years ago. One time the county commission was trying to, the county planning committee, I should say, trying to implement mandated sprinkler systems. Okay. Sounds good. We're going to put sprinkler systems in every house, that people think it's a good thing. Well, what people don't realize is that about $8,000 to $10,000, and that's going to knock a lot of people out being able to buy their first home. So you were talking about, I guess, federal government. I made this comment on the Ralph Bristol show, 99.7, and somehow he interviewed me or something. I said, it's easy to throw stones in D.C., but it's more difficult to take on issues in your backyard. Nobody wants to touch them because they're related to this person. The cousin works here, the brother works there, and they're quiet. They're silent on the matter. So I got to give a guy a shout out. Steve Lane. I don't know if you remember Steve Lane. He showed up, and someone was trying to trip me up, and they were like, on the committee, they're like, just answer yes or no, like Perry Mason. And I said, well, you know what? Let me just ask y'all, raise your hand if you've got a sprinkler system in your own house. And I want you young cats, Jackson and Jeremy, to listen to this. Because this is your future. I mean, democracy, well, what the republic, if we can keep it. And I asked everybody, I said, raise your hand if you got a sprinkler system in your own house. Chairman didn't have a sprinkler system. I said, what about you, building codes director? Building codes director was there. Building codes director didn't have a sprinkler system. Not one single person with a sprinkler system. The fire chief didn't have a sprinkler system. Remember, said raise your hands. There was 2 guys that had their hands raised, and they were so excited. I said, you're a lobbyist for the Sprinkler System Association. And that's who they were. They're lobbyists. And this is what people don't realize. When you have, and I'm all about corporations, but when you've got corporations coming in and mandating, and they hire lobbyists to infiltrate these areas and create that, all that does is run cost up. I've seen it in the car business when they did the cash for clunkers. Sounds great. All it did was hurt the poor. They took good cars and crushed them. They crushed them. They ruined the engines and tore them up. Tim Tomlin called me, and Tim sadly has passed. I don't think, obviously he ain't gonna mind because he's not here, but at the time he didn't want me to say anything, but Senator Frist had, I guess, traded in his Lincoln Navigator on a Prius. Got rid of the beautiful Navigator, and they crushed it. He was getting rid of it to get a Prius.
Now, Fritz, is he the owner of HCA? No.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think they had some affiliation. This was years ago, and remember Tim's been gone for several years, but I remember Bob Court called it a government scheme. I mean, I was at the auto auctions. I literally watched cars. You could usually get a decent car for $1,000, $1,500. I mean, that would drive. You could get around it. Those cars pretty much doubled because of scarcity. People were trading in, get rid of little cheap cars. And it was I called it a union bailout. But I'm glad that Bob Corker called it a government scheme, But you got to watch that. You got to watch, why is somebody running legislation? What's the motive here? Did somebody pay him to do this? It's like this title pawn, all this check into cash, check into bankruptcy. All that crap is just sickening. I guess I think like the only lawmaker that finds it sickening. I just read one of your scriptures on your habitat, if I could find it here. Here's one of these scriptures I really like. It says, it talks about, if you lend money to one of my people among you who is needy, do not be like the moneylender and charge him no interest. You know how much interest those companies are charging people? 300%, 400% interest. Where's NAACP?
Oh, the check cashing places?
Where's Black Lives Matter? Where's Latinos for Tennessee? I'm putting you on the spot now. Where's the GOP? Everybody's silent. They're silent. One day we're going to have to give an account. One day we got to give an account. And I'm going to tell you what, I hope the good Lord says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been trusted with a little bit, you're going to be granted much. I don't know if he'll say that because I've had a lot of problems myself,
So while we're on this about affordable housing, I don't know, do we need to?
We got a call? I'll take a break? Okay. Let's take a quick break and pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance policy perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers policy perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliates.
Dr. Automotive Auto Repair and Maintenance Mechanic Shop Garage provides car owners in Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and the Middle Tennessee area with excellent auto repair services. Deep-rooted experience in serving both foreign and domestic automobiles allows for proper diagnosis in a timely manner. Check them out online at autorepairsmyrna.com. Call them at 615-220-0971 or stop on in at 1205 Hazelwood Drive in Smyrna.
My wife and I enjoy going by Yard Sale Inc. We usually go to both locations, the one in Smyrna as well as the one in Murfreesboro. A lot of times on Saturday mornings we stop by, and their inventory changes weekly, so you never know what you're going to see, and it's mostly open box. The name fits it. It's exactly that. It's a yard sale. If you don't totally agree with the price, the staff is always friendly and nice and willing to work with you.
That's the Yard Sale store in Smyrna at 111 Enon Springs Road West, in Murfreesboro at 204 South Front Street, and online at bestdealintown.com.
Hey Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House, and now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face mask, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
Rutherford Magazine Show. I'm your host, Mike Sparks, talking with Joshua Rosales, Randy Allen with Happy Humanity, producer Jackson Smith, and my faithful intern, Jeremy Smithson, in the house. And who's your guest back here, Joshua?
David Figueroa. He's actually on the board of our nonprofit Break to Tennessee. Yeah, okay. He's our treasurer.
Well, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your backpack back-to-school deal.
Yeah, we had an amazing event this past Tuesday. Actually, we were at Blackman High School. We gave out over 400 backpacks. We had great representation from Latinos for Tennessee. Some of our board members came out. It was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. I was going through the email addresses that I received. Out of 400, we got about 140 email addresses and names. A lot of those names, surprisingly to me, were African American and Hispanic, families, and so that's kind of the change that Francis and I are seeing in the Blackman area, is especially like Blackman Elementary School. I mean, that's over 50% minority. Over 50% minority in Blackman Elementary School. Yeah. And so we're seeing the change. But we had a phenomenal event, and being able to serve the community of Rutherford County and also Davidson County with everything from backpacks to coffee carts. We're getting ready to ramp up our year 2023, 2024, just celebrating teachers and providing support. And but yeah, a lot of our Latinos for Tennessee members were there, and so we had an amazing time.
That's good. Why do you do something like that?
I'm just passionate about people.
Yeah.
I love serving people. I
like your shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Francis made this.
Oh, really?
It's coming off a little bit.
What's this? I support all Rutherford County school staff.
Yes.
How is staffing? With
they're still looking, but this shirt was made because of the teacher raises.
Yeah.
Francis voted for the raises, and there was 3 school board members on there that voted against it, and I think one of them is coming up for re-election. And so, Francis is really proud about, some of these school board members wanted to only give a certain percentage of the teachers' raises, and others they did not want to give raises. But it's like, if you're going to give somebody a raise, give them a raise across the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we support all Rutherford County staff, and just love. I mean, teachers are probably some of the most, police officers as well, firefighters, our public servants are probably some of the most, they don't get the appreciation they deserve. They go in, they do a phenomenal job, and they get just crapped on, if I could say, every day. And so what Break to Tennessee does, we come in, we love on our teachers. We provide coffee and fruit bowls and donuts, and just give them a time in the morning before they start school to gather and just talk and build community. And we Apollo Middle School in Davidson County, Smith Springs Elementary, and Paragon Mills, those are some of the highest populated minority schools. Apollo Middle School is that well, but you'll see just families and students, and I can go on just tell you about stories that have occurred in these schools. And so I just love people. I mean, it's all about relationships.
Well, one of the main priorities of Governor Bill Lee was to get the raises, the salaries up to about $50,000 by 2026, which was up from $35,000 in 2019. I had a nice text from a teacher this week and was saying thank you for the raises, and that's really led by Governor Bill Lee on his initiative with that, as well as the local
and the SEO officers. There's one in Rutherford County. There's one SEO officer in every school now.
Yeah, well, we need it. Times have changed, man. I remember as a county commissioner, I was hesitant at that time when they were implementing that. But, man, I mean, it's not the same as it was 18, 20 years ago, is it, Randy? I mean, times have changed.
Oh, it's really changed.
Why have we kind of backslid, if you will, as a culture?
I think there's a lot. I think it's a very complex issue, and I think, some of it stems from the fact that there's not a, the family is being destroyed from the outside, that people are working to destroy.
We're at a prayer breakfast with Pastor Brenda Bryant. We're going to do an event. It's called Revive Rutherford, September 23rd. If folks want to come out, participate, they're opened up to other churches. If another church wants to set up a booth, I'm hoping to have Men of Valor there, and maybe Lieutenant Tennessee, maybe Habitat, if y'all set up a booth. Grace Church, it'll be Saturday 2 to 5. Grace Church is corner of Stones River Road in Laverne and Old Nashville Highway. In fact, we put a job fair there about 10 years ago. The state said it was the most successful job fair they ever had. But that was back when people wanted to work. That's right. When you have a job fair today, you have a trickle of people that's going to show up. But John DeBerry's our speaker, and we've invited the governor. Hopefully the governor's going to come in. But I've been saying that this country needs to get back to some Jesus 101, and I think an atheist ought to believe that. Because look at your scriptures here that I was looking at. Some of the things that Jesus talked about, like where he said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be." Also, and in Luke chapter 3, verse 11, "Who has two coats? He who has two coats, let him share with him who has none." Randy, I guess you're about my age. I'm starting to see some of my friends pass away. 40. And when you start to think, it's like, what does all this material stuff really matter? What does it matter? The Bible's true, though. I mean, rust and moths are going to destroy them. And, I remember like Marty Luffman. You heard me talk about Marty. Mm-hmm. Marty bought a car for me and gave it to a little Coptic Christian girl. The parents couldn't speak a lick of English. No English at all. Beautiful little girl. She reminded me of Cher, like Sonny and Cher at 16, 4.0 GPA. And she was so surprised. He goes, "There's your birthday present." It was a car that my wife had been driving, a beautiful Buick LaCrosse. And I hooked him up. I hooked him up with a really good, booked out about $7,000, let him have it for $5,000. And he goes, "There's your birthday present." And the little girl's like, "Huh?" He goes, "That's your birthday present." He goes, "That's your birthday present." She looked and she goes, "I thought I was here to get a puppy." And she broke down and started crying. Remember, Marty can't walk. And I told Marty, I said, "Dude, that was your best day, brother. That was your best day." He goes, No. And I don't know if you know Marty. Marty's character, man. I mean, he's character. And he goes, "No, I've had better days." I'm like, "Man, let me tell you something. From a spiritual standpoint, that was your best day. Because you blessed somebody that couldn't offer you nothing in return. And not only did you bless the little girl, you blessed her entire family. Because she can get a job to help her family that's real poor. And then you bless my family, because that's $5,000 I go put into that house I'm working on. But all this material stuff, we can't take all this crap with us. I watched my father leave a bunch of junk that I had to fix. I was with Bob Spivey, most powerful.
And that's where you went to Habitat for Humanity, right?
No, Habitat hooked me up. I'm telling you, man, people don't realize it. Habitat, the Restore, man, I went in there the other day to get looking for lights, 2 brand new lights. Went in there one day for lights, for chandeliers. The guys they said, "We don't take no more lights." Guy looked at me, "You want my lights?" Lord took care of me. Hey, thank y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you, Joshua Rosales, Randy Allen, Jackson Smith, our producer, Jeremy Smithson, and we'll catch up with y'all next week.